Alrighty, hello and good morning every folks. Welcome to a Total Rookie's Guide to Tactics Ogre here. So I feel like most of the folks that have picked up this game since it came out have managed to at least make it up to this point. So we're just going to go ahead and pick this as a nice little starting point with a lot of examples. Because I feel like, realistically, while the majority of requests that come in are things like, what's a good, solid, early game build order or, team composition or whatever else, really the questions that you want to be asking are not like, what is the meta, what is the build, what is this exact thing? It's more, what can I do to address this, this particular problem? Because here's the thing. The reason that first beginner's video ended up getting so complicated is just the fact that there's a lot of mechanics going on with this game, and typically every mechanic will have a lot more interaction than it first seems. So, for example, the reason that I picked this spot in particular is because this fight is one of the first ones where you are definitely going to, by obligation, you're going to be underleveled compared to the next area. This is also a situation where, on paper, if you look at this, there's one path for you to go. So what do? You can't go to Tynemouth Hill and train, which is funny because I specifically saw a comment saying, oh, this is why they shouldn't have removed random battles. You still couldn't go to Tynemouth Hill in any version because you can't trigger a random battle because this is just where you're sitting. But anyway, so in this particular case, you wouldn't be able to go there anyway. But here's the thing. You can actually still do all of that stuff at this point. But what you have to know is, again, there's just more mechanics going on. So in this case, first thing that you should know, whenever there's an opportunity, whenever you're wondering if there's other stuff going on, go to the Warren Report. I mean, not only will it detail friggin' every single character you've run into, including every mini-boss, and let you know how much of a terrible person you were for ruining their entire career, but it also will tell you other things that are going on, different news stories, all that kind of thing. And this gets pretty extensive with, different stuff going on in different parts of the world and all that kind of thing. Like, for example, if you're in the very first chapter of the game, you'll find a little story telling you what happened to the other party that actually did show up at the proper location. It didn't go well for them. Anyway, so in this particular case, we see that Farampa is open for hunters, which basically means that suddenly this forest over here is open for you to go do with as you will. Now, at this point, you might say, wait a minute, but I can't go to the store and restock or anything. True, but realistically, by this point, you've probably picked up some class marks for the Beast Tamer. General rule of thumb is whenever you kill the first of any class, you will always be given, almost always, depending on, the circumstances. Obviously, there's going to be some edge cases here and there, but you'll pretty much always be given 3 class marks for that class. So in this case, I hired the Dragoon, so I do not have the class marks for that. If I'd killed the Dragoon, I would have gotten 3. Got 3 Ninja marks, made a unit into that, and got 3 Beast Tamer marks, and I made them into that. Realistically, same thing goes for all the other classes, but like right here, just kind of playing it through, I hired 1 Terror Knight, but I still had 2 drops of Terror Knight marks. So, by this point, you should have access to all of these classes through one means or another. Usually, whenever there is a new class, they're usually pretty well in the front, so you usually can end up getting them immediately. Any dang ways. So, as far as all this goes, I will go into this assuming that you've A, understood that crafting exists at the shop, and B, that you've acquired most classes along the way. So the first thing, if you did remember that crafting exists, first and easiest thing is this combination right here. There's a lot of synergies behind different classes, but if you really want one build that's going to sort out a lot of problems, Terror Knight, Two-Hander, Zwei +1. This can easily, by itself, last you into the end game. Bear in mind that there is an upgraded version through the Claymore later, but technically speaking, this sword right here on a Terror Knight with both of their fear abilities, specifically Fearful Impact, Lament gets better as the game goes on. But this right here can sort out a lot of your problems. Because the first thing that we should actually cover probably is going to be the actual roles of your different units. Because unlike, many other games or whatever else, you're not necessarily going to be going for specific abilities that are overpowered in some way. Everybody's got some options, and it's the kinds of stuff that you can do with those options that really kind of is the meat of the building experience, so to speak. So like right here we look at warriors, and they're going to be your basic arms master kind of thing. While they are a basic unit and they're described as much, their thing is that they can guarantee a critical hit on any kind of melee attack, as well as the fact that they gain access to a very wide variety of weapons, more so than any other class in the game. To address this point real quick, what are the pros and cons of different weapons? It's all situational. Basically, it's just one other list of different things for you to go and explore. What I would recommend, rather than trying to weigh pros and cons, give all your units different weapon types, and you'll see that they're stronger or weaker at different points in the game. You're really not going to be able to fully efficiently min-max, like who should have the best weapon at different times. Like, if you really want a power spike early on, easiest little thing to do right here, go get a Dirk +1 from the store as soon as crafting unlocks. You've got a silence effect on this knife, right? Now, you give that to Canopus and let him just kind of do his thing. Okay, so before I actually get into all of that, let me explain right here. So the reason that you want to come into this forest, basically, if you want beast units of all kinds, like you want griffins, you go right here. You want to have dragons, you go right here. Down kind of up this way, past those two maps, you can even get like zombie octopi and cyclopes that will come back to life after a few turns if they're killed. If you go this way, you get stuff like sword masters and things like that. So you can recruit all kinds of things in this forest, and basically you definitely have at least one class with recruit. In fact, I wanted to make a point of it at some point to make a video that even if you fired all of your units, and even if you just had one unit, like let's say class as an archer, there still would be a way forward at this point. There's so many mechanics that it is legitimately difficult to soft lock yourself at any point, unless you're legitimately going out of your way to do so. But any darn ways. So let's kind of take a step back here and tell you what we're looking at in terms of mechanics. So let's look at this fight first of all. So without going and building up all that stuff in the forest, let's take a look at what this whole thing actually consists of. All right. So specifically, the difficulty that many folks oftentimes run into is the fact that this is the first time that they're going to see multiple units running healing at the same time. That on paper, this looks like a completely fair fight, that it is a 10v10, but they are at a higher level. So technically, on paper, they should have an advantage, right? But what you want to look at it is more like this, okay? It's more of a 10v4, okay? So the first thing that you notice is that, yeah, you can technically speaking, like realistically, all of their support back here will not be able to engage for several rounds, meaning that realistically at the very start, you're just dealing with these four. So you have your whole team versus them. If you were to charge down here, you would give them the advantage right back, because suddenly all their support is able to fire at you. But if you were instead to drag them over, kind of about here, then suddenly we're looking more at a situation where you can build up a line behind those buildings. You deny a line of sight when it comes to all of their casters and archers through those two buildings, mainly leaving a danger zone around here, and eventually the middle, having some arrows flying through. But realistically, this would be where the support can fire. This would be where their lightweight archers can fire, and then this would be where the bulk of the fighting is happening. There's a 2-tile area right here, meaning that even on top of everything else, you can diminish their ability to attack your units by just locking them into having less mobility. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to attempt to exploit another thing here as well, because you'll notice throughout the story that multiple units will effectively, well, they'll have loyalty based on their jobs. So like right here, these berserkers are clearly the ones getting fully sent into the front to just go die to give everyone else a chance. Meaning that if we take a look at their loyalty, they hate their jobs. They don't have any intent to, go support their boss if they had the option to do so. So we're going to have an easier time recruiting them to our side. This lady, for whatever reason, seems to have slightly higher loyalty than the others. I don't know if she's just got a crush on her boss or whatever, but any dang ways, she likes him. These other 3 dudes don't. Anywho, so we have multiple options on hand right now. So I touched on earlier how you can combine on-hit effects and skills at the same time. So while this seems like an advanced trick, it's something that will make a world of difference if you're just getting into stuff. Basically, anytime that you see that there's a skill that says it will give you 100% hit chance through one means or another, any one of these secondary effects here is guaranteed to happen. So, if we look at something like right here, it says breach on effect. What does a breach say that it does? Well, we go down and we take a look at it. It says physical defense is weakened. This is technically inaccurate. Really what breach does is increase the damage of any incoming attacks by 15%, but either way, for all intents and purposes, it's fine as far as the description goes. Anyway, so we go over here and we look at Fearful Impact, and it says 100% accuracy and always frightens. So it won't say it on the description right here, but Frighten actually lowers attack and defense threshold. See, when your units are fighting, their DPS is not really a concern. Like, I see a lot of people mentioning, you know, MMO terms like DPS and all that kind of thing. It's not necessarily a thing here. Like, a single hit is all well and good, but this guy hitting once and inflicting breach and fear suddenly means that an archer's damage might go from 2 to 200. So anyway, so we're going to do a few things right here just to show how quickly we can wrap up the situation here. So we're going to go ahead and remove him. We're going to put a couple archers in place. We're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and put away this lizard for now. We're going to have 2 recruiters here. We're going to go ahead and put her away. So we've got our 4 frontliners just there to block the way. I think we're going to go for... whatever. Purple People Eater's funny. We're just going to go ahead and bring them along. So what we've got right here... Actually, we probably want a cleric. We'll go ahead and put a cleric in the team there. So what we've got right here is we see that there's 4 melee units. Now, the pros and cons of each one, again, just... you don't have to worry about the specifics. Basically, what you're looking at is more roles. It's like right here, these are frontliners. Basically, this will translate to, well... it's somebody that will be holding the line through one means or another. So if, like, we go right here, we see that she's got shield, axe. We're gonna, let's say, put recruit on her. So we've got 3 units capable of recruit through the knights and rune fencers. We have 1 unit that's there for throwing out defense-lowering debuffs through Mr. Gerald here. And in many ways, if you've... this is going to be a bit of an odd tangent, but if you've played Darkest Dungeon before, you can think of Gerald like the huntsman from that one, where effectively they are marking a target for death. Or the Houndmaster, what am I saying? Anyway, so let's go ahead and start this here so I don't get any more complaints about the music, because granted, the deploy music does get a little bit... Okay, so let's look at what we got here. All right. So you saw from the scouting thing that they are functionally built for 2 elements. So what I would recommend right off the bat, due to how good elements can be in this game, if you hit your thumbstick, you can have several different modes for your health bars. It's like, this is the standard one. This is kind of what would normally be the mode there. If you're having an issue telling friend and foe apart, you hit it once, which will give you blue for your guys, and then whatever the faction color happens to be. And then if you hit it again, it will give you elements. So once your eyes kind of get used to it, you'll be able to tell your units apart fairly easily. But, you know, either way, you can switch between those if you're having issues with certain things. But even when you're on elements, you can see they're flashing pink, our guys are flashing blue. Alright, so basically, all we want to do is, realistically, all we need to do to win is have one of those breach weapons or a fear effect go hit their boss, which is over there. Alright? We hit them with that, we have Canopus go in with his wind finisher on his dagger, and fantastic, whatever, we're all good to go. So that is going to be kind of our plan A. We're going to set that aside for the time being, because in order to get to that plan, we have to first get away to that boss. So plan B then is going to be lining up our units along the back of those buildings, denying line of sight to the wizards and the archers. We're going to have this ninja and our own archers harass their backline wherever possible, but standing by for taking advantage of openings. And then we're going to have the ninja throwing out stuns on his bow. So the upgraded short bow has a stun effect on it. The ninja can get access to Benumb at this point, which will guarantee a stun effect on any attack they do. It's listed as just melee, but it is literally just any attack they do. Any darn ways. If you've picked those up, great. If not, honestly, you can just get through this thing with basic weapons just fine. But for the purposes of showing off how this can work, we're going to go ahead and use all the toys at our disposal. So our first line of business here is just setting up this line here. We're not going to take any additional actions with our frontliners because we want to meet them on our terms around this general area. Now, this lady's got a stun effect on her bow, so in order to try to get them to waste turns, I'm going to go ahead and just take a shot here. If it lands, it lands. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Just so you know, never rely on only one plan. Like, really the secret to doing good at this game is always just accepting that your first plan didn't work, and trying the next one, and then trying the next one, and then trying the next one. It's always adapting your plan on the fly. You never just stick to one plan. You can reiterate that plan, go back to, different versions of that plan, but if you stubbornly refuse to change the strategy at any point, you will always have a hard time. And I don't mean this in a, like, oh, get good sense. I mean, like, literally that is just the name of the game here. Because as it goes on, you will continue to be over-leveled. It will never be unfair. It will never be unbeatable. But it will be dramatically more difficult if you're not trying to adapt for things. So, like, right here, technically speaking, we're not planning around cards in any way. So I could pick up this Fizz card. It would make what we're setting up a little bit easier. We're going to go out of our way to avoid them, as is usual for these things. So I'm just going to go ahead and go over here. Technically speaking, pick up one Fizz card, use a finisher on Canopus, and you're probably going to be good to go. Because at this point, Canopus' stats are dramatically higher than everybody else. And if he has an elemental type advantage, then that is going to make a massive difference. So okay, first thing that we want to look at here is a complaint I've seen a few times over the odds of poison hitting. So default odds around this point in the game are going to be roughly 30%, boosted up to 50% with Spell Strike, alright? That doesn't seem like much, but you have to realize poison is a cheap and very easy to use spell there, so you can just spam it. And that's the thing, you can just put multiple units spamming poison. You never need a damage-dealing spell whatsoever. Realistically, poison will do more damage if it lands than, sometimes up to 2 to 3 times as much. Overall damage than the actual elemental spell you were going for. So it costs less, it does more, but it has to win a dice roll. And the thing is, if you can't win, if you can't win the dice roll as it is, you just set up more dice rolls. You take more chances to do that particular thing. All right. So now in this case, this is one of those moments that I was talking about when it comes to building a line. So what I'm doing is I'm denying them movement. Okay, the most important thing to do when playing defensively is not to try to overtly attack, but to try to deny mobility as much as possible. Because if a unit can get around, if they can set up a pincer, if they can set up all this other stuff, as long as they're moving around freely, you are in danger and you can't control your situation. So ideally, what we want to do right here is we want to go in and we'll just take any attack. It doesn't have to be a good attack, it doesn't have to do a lot of damage, but it's just something we can do. Alright, so we're going to cover more on Recruit and its kind of interesting implications in a moment, but we're just going to leave that situation as is for now. Alright, so we're actually, let's see, ideally I want him targeting the targeting that knight over there. I'm just picking up the card because it happens to be on the tile that I need right now. But I want to be attempting to recruit some of these units. So because of the way the finishers got reworked in this one, there's usually a safe approach that you can do when attempting to recruit someone, wherein you can use a finisher, and then if you have enough points, you go straight for the recruit afterwards. It's typically a pretty good approach, but in this case, it's not a good opening for it. Still 0% odds on the recruit because his health is fairly high. Recruit odds are based on two things, which is going to be loyalty and the percentage of their health that's remaining. And it typically will end up maxing out roughly about 40%. This can vary based on a number of different situations, but it will typically max out around 40%. So something to note when it comes to debuffs, recruits, all of that kind of thing, there's a lot of situations where, quite frankly, you just won't be able to make them work at all because it says 0%. And by the way, you may notice right here, because he was hit by that breach, we're effectively doing far more with our archers at this point. So this is why I was saying earlier that archers are just a good way to exploit openings. They're not there as a DPS class, they're there as an exploitation class. So as soon as you create a weakness, they can go and continue hammering at it. You have them sit in one place, and you have them fire repeatedly. Anyway, so we'll cover this again more in a moment, but as far as recruit odds and kind of different debuff interactions, there's a lot more to it than simply, saying that the thing was not able to hit. Right, so like right there, we're going to get a little bit extra damage versus this lady because of wind being effective versus rock there, but either way, versus earth rather. But either way, we're just going to leave that as is for the moment. Okay, so next thing. Has he triggered concentration? No, so his odds are going to be pretty low. But this is when we come to the concept of disruption units. So sometimes you want a unit doing things simply to be annoying rather than trying to do anything directly damage-wise. So like right here, this isn't really going to be a threatening amount of damage, but it's still something they're going to try to heal, and it's going to throw a stun on them. Because he's a ninja, he can guarantee that stun effect on his arrow. He's going to take a little bit of a hit in return, but he's going to go ahead and throw that out there just to throw a stun on that unit. If units are damaged or they're debuffed or whatever else, that they will usually attempt to remove those debuffs, so you can effectively delay them coming into a fight a little bit longer. Now in this case, again, we're going to not move her, we're going to throw more poison out there. Whatever lands, lands, whatever doesn't, doesn't. We play with whatever cards were dealt. Now, some, may prefer to go and go for an approach, for example, like going repeatedly, trying to use Chariot to reroll to always get those hit odds. Please don't do that. You're just going to frustrate yourself. Honestly, personally, I wish that they had not even included the Chariot feature in this version of the game, because it was easily the thing that frustrated the most people about the PSP version, because they always wanted to make that perfect turn happen. Instead, you want to be adapting to the stuff that you're running into. Now, in this case, we're now in a situation where, like right now, I've got several opportunities that are potentially available. However, like for example, I could circle around the side, get a terrifying impact on this guy. This will lower his defense dramatically. But as soon as we do that, he will not be recruitable as long as he's terrified. See, if a unit is terrified, or they're charmed, or they're asleep or petrified, they're not able to talk normally, or they're not in their right mind. Essentially meaning that you cannot talk to them, you cannot recruit them. So these kind of little logical moments end up coming up quite a bit as far as this game is concerned. So for example, if you ever try to put land sleep on a poisoned unit, it will never work, because they're currently running a fever, and if you've ever tried falling asleep while running a fever, it doesn't typically go very well. So his odds would be 0%, but his normal odds versus these ones are roughly in the 40% ballpark. Alright, makes sense? Okay, good. So, anyway, in this case, I want to ideally put a Fearful Impact on somebody. I was hoping to recruit this Berserker up here, but they're getting a little bit close for comfort. She does have the lowest odds to, she does have the highest odds to be recruited, but for now we're just going to do this. We're going to set up the Frighten, we're going to set up the Breach. And then we're just going to show how big of a difference this makes in terms of how well archers are actually built for kind of exploiting weaknesses. So okay, we're going to go ahead and go for the stab right here. It's not going to do very much because it's Phalanx is active, but we're just stabbing and we're waiting. Just act and hold is a perfectly viable turn. Like, they're just chipping away, it doesn't matter. Their purpose is to hold the line, their purpose is not to do damage. If they do damage, if they throw out a debuff, wonderful. But that is not their current job. Their job is defense. So okay, I'm just going to go ahead and throw a axe hit on this guy, and we now have another situation that can play out a number of different ways. So she's got him to low health, he's got pretty low recruit odds, and as we can see, if you see the icon that's showing up whenever recruit is being used, if it has a blue circle, that means it's a valid target. The odds are obviously the odds, but if we look over on this Frightened unit, we can see that they are no longer a valid target because they are terrified, and they would not be able to talk normally. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and go for the recruit on this guy. Thankfully it was successful. Now, when I said that it could play out a number of different ways, basically, if that recruit failed, that means that, probably a good play would be to leave this knight right here, continue blocking the line. But now that they are recruited, we can effectively develop into taking this card right here, improve their damage a little bit. That's a nice little bonus. We're not really planning around it, but we can effectively move our line forward. She's at high health, she's got good defense, and she realistically isn't too threatened by those archers over there, because heavy armor units counter archers more or less. It's not that simple, but technically speaking, it can work that way. If you hit a Frighten and Breach on one of those heavier units, they will be just as much of a soft target as many of the other squishies. Anyway, so now we have effectively changed this from a 10v10 to a 11v8. So we're going to go ahead and heal up that guy a little bit. As long as everybody can take one hit, we're in a good and safe position. Generally speaking, it's better to to try and keep everybody within over one hit of damage that they can take, and try to mitigate their incoming damage as much as possible rather than charging ahead. So low percentage odds on this one, but we can push our line forward slightly. Figure it's worth a shot. We've got another heal coming up here. And there we go. So basically what we've done is we've removed half of their initial offensive push, and we can quickly deal with this one on the side. Because she's frightened, her overall thresholds are going to be dramatically lower. As you can see, we can throw out 200 damage with our archers now. They can attack quickly, they can attack with unusual debuffs in a lot of situations, and they can attack at very long range, meaning that again, they are there for hammering on weaknesses, not for creating them in the first place. That is the job of the frontliner. The frontliners and the skirmishers break through the lines, the archers exploit those weaknesses, and then the casters are there as kind of an adaptable kind of wild card, so to speak. Sometimes debuffs, sometimes missile damage, sometimes overheads. It's really all situational. But like right here, you can see the archers are going to be doing more damage than this wizard at this point, but she would be able to do the same consistent damage versus these guys. But because they've all decided to bunch up, we will go ahead and go for the massive DPS approach and go ahead and throw that out there. Whatever lands, lands, and we go ahead and move on. Alright, so now that we've gone ahead and controlled this area a little bit, we can go ahead and again continue hammering on this unit up here. This might be enough to finish them off. Yeah, 244. It's enough. The ninja will be able to finish them off. One little note, by the way, anything that counts as physical is affected by leaden. So that's that debuff that they were throwing out. So there's a lot of debuffs in this game, and they all interact in different ways. So, you know, Frighten will reduce attack and defense. So those are hard attack and defense, meaning that it's reducing the attack and defense threshold of their armor and weapon. And something like leaden, however, is going to make them slow. It's going to reduce their vertical movement. It's going to reduce their turn speed. It's going to reduce their evasion. I mean, it doesn't sound like much on paper, but it's like it just completely it slows them down dramatically. Oftentimes, a lot of these different effects you can think about pretty logically. Imagine if your feet didn't work particularly well. They can't jump very far, they can't jump down very far because they're afraid of breaking their legs. They can't really, you know, do any fancy footwork and dodge out of the way of things coming their way. And they have just a harder time moving in general. So they're changed down to a slow type, meaning that whenever they do move, their turns are actually, their cost per tile moved is actually higher. Alright. So at this point, we want to start developing Mr. Canopus here for the coup de grace, so to speak. So, oh, he actually does have a crossbow, so we're actually just going to go ahead and take the shot right here. She might parry, though. She has had pretty good odds of parrying, so we'll just go ahead and use a spell instead. So, for example, in his case, he's somebody that's pretty good as far as going and switching between different roles. Like, usually spells are those situations when you want to be really consistent with the damage that you're doing. Whereas, for example, something along the lines of like a bow or a melee hit might be more worthwhile if you're looking for, you know, a little bit more oomph out of your hits there. Okay, so they're seeing a lot of damage. I want them to be a little bit distracted, so I'm going to go ahead and have my my ninja guy over here throw out a few random hits. He picked up a crit card earlier, so he's allowed to do crits now at about a roughly 20% rate. So those multi-hit moves can essentially do a lot of fun things there. That knight's getting relatively low on health, so we're going to again develop our line here, still keeping our area blocked off, not letting them maneuver, but we are going to go for another recruit right here. So again, probably going to be pretty low odds, but if it happens, that'd be great. Did we get it? No, doesn't matter. Alright, so Mr. Farrell is starting to get within range now. He sees that his team is falling apart, so he's moving in to assist. We're starting to get some overheads, but overheads are always going to do less damage than the main event. So, at this point, because this turn needs to be getting into the front line, we're going to move him here so that Denim can actually retreat and recover a little bit. And we're going to see who we can potentially put to sleep. So, realistically, this guy just took his turn. He's not very fast. We're not going to worry about that. But then Archer will have a turn eventually. We don't have too many great options against her, so we might as well just throw that sleep out there while he's, you know, doing his thing. So, actually, right, it was the other knight that moved. Oh well, probably would have made more sense to try to put him to sleep, but it doesn't matter. They can't really get any openings right now anyway. So we're going to move this guy up. He's going to go for the claws versus this guy. He's going to take a 1 damage counter. That completely doesn't matter. But there we go. Again, the line is still remaining established. We're still putting out damage while not being able to physically reach those units. That's one of those things that just makes poison such a good tool. And we're going to move around the side here. We're going to temporarily break our line a little bit in order to try to get this guy on our side. Now, we're not really doing this very efficiently here because, again, Phalanx is going to be eating damage. But I'm going to go ahead and throw that finisher out there to kind of reduce his health a little bit. Alright, so we're basically setting up for a move in a little bit here because I want to ideally have that TK run up on top of that roof and attack the knight. Alright, so at this point, archers just kind of have their pick of targets. Nobody's really set up to be taking any big hits, so we'll just kind of pick whoever's got some decent numbers on there and just go ahead and fire into the crowd. Got concentration and triggering on her. I'll probably throw out some more damage here. Maybe even throw out some stuns, just to hopefully delay their actions a little bit. So there we go. We're just gonna go ahead and throw the stun out there. That might waste their turns. It might not. Again, think of them more as a to whom it may concern kind of option as far as offense goes. Just, you know, it may do something, it may not, but you're just kind of throwing it out there. So we'll go ahead and see if we can do a little more on this guy. One poison should finish him off. Nice little counter crit there. Oftentimes, if you land a debuff, it's worth taking a counter crit if it's exactly what you wanted at the time. Cashua deciding to just go ham on the guy for some reason. Apparently she just really didn't like that guy. Oh well. Anyway, at this point though, we are a little bit threatened as far as our line goes here. We don't want that soldier breaking through. So we do have a risky play here in terms of, technically speaking, Cashua's blocking just the right tile. So we can actually take the riskier play here. We're going to go ahead and try to go for the finisher drop on this guy. Denim's at a bit lower health. But we're just going to go ahead and do that on that guy. Attempt to go for the recruit. Again, this is just a strategy that you can do. I personally find it pretty fun, but you can easily just go for damage instead because you're going to be taking faster turns than using recruit. Because recruit takes a little bit of a while to use. Really, the kind of main thing to pay attention to here is just keeping keeping your lines going, managing your contact, so to speak. Okay, so in this case, he can go ahead and set up this soldier right here. I was hoping to set him up for the poison to take him out, but you know what? That'll work out just fine. Okay. So now we have Canopus moving into position here. Maybe take a few little opportunity attacks on the way over. He's essentially going for a heart crusher here. He's building up his finishers. Now we're not going to go for the spell damage though. We're going to go for a shot with a bow. See if we can land a crit here. Again, bear in mind you can rely on Canopus for a lot of things at this point. His stats are dramatically higher than everybody else. So effectively, you're going to be able to do a lot more with him. He does kind of make an unusually good case for the Vartan, which is a pretty good class. It's like its main selling point is realistically its movement, but it's just like one of these cases where, if we're being real here, it's not as good as he's making it seem. It's really just the fact that he's got higher stats on him. Anyway, so at this point, I want her out of the fight, so I'm going to go ahead and just take a hit here, recruit if we can, 4%, the odds suck. Oh well, go for it. And we're going to pull her out of the fight. So she needs to retreat and recover. She's at way too low health to even get herself healed up to a reasonable point. Unfortunately, they're going to go ahead and pursue for the kill there, which is just unfortunate timing, but again, nothing that we can't really deal with. So we've got our archers coming up pretty soon here, so we want to go ahead and push through. We already know that Knight Lady here is not going to be joining us. Her loyalty was pretty high, so we're going to go ahead and set her here with the Breach and the Frighten. Realistically, the Frighten is the more important thing, but that particular combination is very effective. I'm going to heal up Denim a little bit, just in case Pharrell decides to go for one of those big finishers. But yeah, you can play this very safe and just kind of keep your units sitting back a little bit more. You really don't have to push out like this, but I want to set up that move with Canopus. See if we can maybe set up a one-shot on this boss here. Alright, so at this point, yeah, her defense is going to suck. I'm going to get 200s out of this axe. This would be enough to just set her up for a finish, but realistically, the archer's going to take care of that in a moment anyway. We can just go for another recruit on this guy. It's just fun to spam recruit and try to make friends. Anyway, so I'm just going to go for a heal. That's perfectly fine. Anyway, at this point, we're just going to move forward, throw out a little bit more. What do we want to do here? feeling like we probably want to go for poison. Now, I will say, like, 30% odds to poison this guy. Poison is just an easy way to deal with this guy in general. We're not going to do that this time because I want to show other things that you can do. But if you really want an easy option, get 2 enchantresses with poison on there. Just spam it until it hits. I mean, the odds are high enough that it really doesn't matter. So there we go. Normal shots doing 142s with the longbow there. And by the way, if you're from the PSP version before, just know that the upgraded weapons in this one, they really are just bonus effects more than overall stats. The actual like stat bonus for upgrading our longbow is like 2 attack or something. It's pretty much insignificant in this game. Anywho, we'll now go ahead and move this guy up front. He'll go ahead and take a swing at this one, see if he can go ahead and stun them a little bit. And yeah, she should be within... Well, we might as well go for the recruit, but this is one of those kind of join or die type situations. So, do you want to join us? No? Well, in that case, go ahead and have a spear. And we're going to go ahead and move on here. So now that we've gone over this this whole crazy thing in order to set up Canopus, let's see if we can get him to land that one shot. You might have noticed up to this point that he is moving very slow. See, this is another little factor that doesn't come up very often. But the Vartan is a weird case where his movement is very high, but his movement per tile is also, his movement cost per tile is very high as well. So while there are a lot of different movement types in the game, it's not exactly a good, accurate measurement of what they actually do. So every time that a unit moves a tile, they're going to be paying a certain cost. Like, I think for the Cleric it's something like 3, but for the Vartan it would be something like 6. So while they can move farther, their next turn is going to be dramatically delayed as a result. So I guess he's just kind of a lazy flyer or something, I don't know. Anyway, at this point they've got few enough units that we can go ahead and break formation. We're not really gaining too much of trying to funnel them into a particular spot. This guy, let's see. Really might as well just try to hammer at this guy. Because, like, when you're in this kind of situation where somebody's at medium health and you can just kind of raw damage your way past them, then it's probably worth doing. In certain other situations, it won't be. So at this point, we're actually just going to spam finishers on this wizard. We need to deal with the wizard, and we need to deal with the knight, ideally. Terror Knight just needs to get to Pharrell, and then we pretty much should be good to go here. So 3 attacks on this wizard should roughly finish him off. Alright, she's going to do some healing. It's a little bit of a chaotic phase, but, you know, it happens. You just, eventually you might as well just drop the lines and go for it. It's gonna go for wrapping up the fight. If you're doing something like a no incaps run or something, you're going to be going for something a little different. But, you know, we're not doing no incaps here, we're just playing normally. Realistically, I would not recommend somebody trying to go do no incaps until they've played through the game like over a dozen times. It's one of those challenges that's pretty extreme on the difficulty side, and it's really more of a game knowledge thing than a, you know, you figured out all of you figured out the tricks kind of thing. Like, I mean, bear in mind, I've been playing the PSP version for, well, over a decade at this point, and no incaps is still quite the challenge. Anyway, so at this point, yeah, like, we look at Pharrell, and we can just, at this point, we can just blunt force him into, you know, into an early retirement. But again, we're just going to exploit his weaknesses in order to make that happen a little bit easier. So we're going to move over here, we're going to start finishing off some units. He's got a lightning bow. He's going to go ahead and lightning bow this guy. See if maybe somebody else can go and recruit him. There's a witch over there doing her, or not even a witch, but a enchantress doing her thing. Most of the time the AI will prefer to use damaging spells, but if you've got a lot of very tanky units, they will switch over to debuffs. Anyway, so if we look over at Pharrell right now, we can see that we can, out of the box, just deal 547 to him. But I want to make that a one-shot, so we're going to go ahead and move him over here. Let's kind of lock him in place for now. We're going to... I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to go and wake up our unit that's on the ground. So, by the way, as far as how much she's doing, the reason for this, Pharrell is earth-based, he is wind-based. His finishers will scale dramatically higher due to this. Like, finishers will essentially give you a massive advantage when it comes to types. But in this particular case, yeah, his stats are higher, Heart Crusher scales very well. And so, yeah, he's effectively able to almost one-shot this guy. This is the easiest way to handle this if you want. If you want him to just not heal, by the way, you can just use the Dirk +1. I was kind of starting to touch on this earlier, but basically you give the Dirk +1 with a Mighty Strike to a Warrior. They're going to guarantee that silence effect. Suddenly they can't heal anymore, so you got that as an option as well. But we're just going to have him sit right there for now, and deal with these different situations accordingly. He's going to go ahead and hit his crit on that guy, which is perfectly fine. We want to deal with this knight, though, so I'm actually going to have her go and go for Wrathful Strike. The cudgel finishers, by and large, seem to scale off of mental stats, making them pretty good for casters. Going to go for the Rending Gale, that's fine. Alright. Now, these longbows are probably going to plink off his armor. Again, 23 on that, but they are going to do pretty okay damage against these guys. Again, just have them sit in one place and keep firing. They're there to exacerbate problems, not create them. Okay, so we can just keep hammering on you. Spells will hammer heavies a little bit better, but really, the heavies are better just kind of, you're better off just turning their weaknesses against them. Additionally, if you have a problem with heavies, using a dagger on an archer is going to be stronger than a bow. Kind of a historical nod as far as that goes, because if you didn't know, a lot of times if a unit with heavy armor was down, a lot of times people carried around daggers to essentially just go jab them in the throat rather than trying to deal with all that armor. Alright, anyway, so we now go around the corner, we deal with this guy, one less unit for us to deal with. Sure, we could have recruited him, but oh well. He had the opportunity. We're going to break off you, attempt to see about recruiting this one instead of killing them. If not, an archer will take care of the job. Do you want to attempt some diplomacy? No. Fine. Okay. Now you are going to move this way to hopefully bait Pharrell into going this way. What I want to do is have the Terra Knight up in front. Hopefully Pharrell attacks him. And hopefully, then we'll be able to just finish him off after the fact. So, go ahead and trigger Fearful Impact. Like, oh no, I got my back turned. It would be a shame if somebody attacked me right now. Gonna set up one of them kind of deals. Drop a heal on Mr. Taylor up here. Move you out of the way so that you're not a target, though realistically, actually, we probably should move you forward so that he's not tempted to go for the Berserker. There we go. Now you go ahead and go for another bonk on this dude, even though he's got his stuff up. Whatever. Just power through that. Just continue the bashing. There we go. Now we've gotten that breach in effect. Because many bosses, by the way, will not be able to be frightened. If you're wondering what happened there. But either way, that's all we realistically need. We could also put a strengthen. You can just go ahead and buy a strengthen buff at the store that you can just put on any of your units. If a unit is using strengthen on themselves, in many cases it'll be dramatically stronger. But at this point, that breach should be enough to turn this into a one-shot. But let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, 588, so not so much. But the crit will go ahead and take care of that, putting that to a 982 instead.
To die at a traitor's hands.
He aged 80 years in a day. Alright, anyway, that'll be that. So, hopefully this has been a slightly more helpful kind of beginner's guide on how to kind of conceptually think about all of this stuff. I know it's a lot. Like, again, it's one of these games where every mechanic just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So if there's anything confusing, look, there's no dumb questions. Go ahead and ask. I will attempt to answer them as much as I can. Stuff has realistically been exploding these last few months, so, like, look, realistically, there's like 400 comments I still need to answer, but dang it, I will get to that eventually. Between work, kids, and whatever else, there's only so many times for comments, but I will attempt to answer as best I can. Alright, guys, have a good one, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.